bienvenue, hello and welcome. I have the video for this week, and this week is a video that I did not expect to be doing because I read the book and I thought, well, that is interesting, but I feel a little bit as if it is trodden on ground that the author has already worked and we'd already done another books that I felt it covered similar territory. However, we are doing it because I went down a little rabbit hole after making some observations, and I thought that actually, I think that we can make something of this. So, before we start, remember, there is our shop where we have books and writing services. You can visit our shop and buy a book or buy a writing service. You can go to our Redbubble shop, and where there are over 100 designs on all sorts of different things. So if you want to support us, that is how you support us, because we, no advertising, no Patreon, just those things. Also, if you want to support us but you don't want to spend any money, that is fine. Like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. So, that is that. What is the book that I was thinking? Well, I think that we have done this already, so why am I doing this again? Well, it was Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Now, the screen is not going to like this cover. It's going to like one of the other cards, and first even less. Now, this book was written in 1920, or published in 1920, published about over 30 years before in German, before it was translated into English. So this book did not come to an English-speaking audience until the 1950s. And I certainly found that the timing of that and it becoming popular in the 1960s, I was not terribly surprised. At the same time, I read the book and I felt like I can understand why this was influential to the hippie generation, like Janus. After reading Narcissus and Goldum, I felt it kind of walked over exactly the same ground, shorter and less nuanced. So, Siddhartha, I am probably saying that entirely wrong, is a young man from a high caste family, this is set in India, who goes on a spiritual journey, a journey of an ascete, a businessman, a hedonist, and finally a hermit. And at the same time, he is a life that is happening at the same time as the Buddha. And the whole narrative is in some ways a exploration of the teaching of Buddha in some way. It is I can see how this was incredibly influential to the counterculture movement. The introduction of this is written by Paulo Coelho, and while that it talks very much about how this book was terribly important for him, it did not really help me understand the book, and I was not really certain how I would talk about this in a full video parce que it's like, okay, it's Narcissus and Gordon with Orientalism. Really? That I prefer Narcissus and Gordon, to be honest. I would still say I prefer Narcissus and Gordon even after the investigations that I have been making. Parce que I think that the duality and the interplay of masculine and feminine within Narcissus and Gordon is far more interesting than a highly cribbed version of Buddhism. Now, that was my reaction, which is sort of why I did not bring this when I first read it. Would I say it is worth reading? Oui-ish. Oui. I would say that Narcissus and Gordon is a better book, personally. Mais, why am I bringing it now? Why am I bringing it now? Well, that is the thing that actually made this, the whole point of this interesting, is I started noticing, you will have noticed, I have been reading a lot of German books. I have been watching German film, and so I began to notice a pattern. I noticed it in not just German books, but also I noticed it in Christopher Isherwood's Goodbye to Berlin. One of the characters in Goodbye to Berlin, one of his Jewish friends, has, I think it is one of Natasha or Natalia's relatives. He has a fine collection of East Asian art. And then I noticed, reading the Christopher Isherwood, I noticed that he had orientalized this Jewish German man along with his art collection of Southeast Asian, in fact, I believe it is Southeast Asian or East and Southeast Asian art. So I sort of was like, oh, I noticed it, but I thought I wasn't sure whether it was something that was significant or if it was just Christopher Isherwood being, frankly, anti-Semitic and a little bit racist. So, a little bit of both. So. I also started to notice that Indian or East Asian things started to crop up in German things, which, so this book, so Hermann Hesse, I also noticed in waxworks, you have a Middle Eastern section. In Destiny, the Fritz Lang, you have a story set in China. Now, both of these are quite orientalized. They are fantasy, they are very, over the top, very foreign. Where the foreignness and exoticism is quite amplified. So I noticed that and I thought, oh, okay, is the Germans sort of getting onto the Orientalist bandwagon that the English and the French already are on. And then I started noticing other things. I watched the Indian tomb. Now, the Indian tomb, yes, it is somewhat Orientalist. It is one of those very, very long ones, although it is directed by John Mays. It is also scripted by Fritz Lang, who does not know the meaning of the word brevity, as I believe has been said, and Thea Haberlo, who was his second wife, from her novel. So one of the things that made me sort of stop and look at this and think, oh, that is very different to the Orientalism of Destiny or Waxworks. It actually is more like the 1917 film Fear. The interesting thing is both of those had Conrad Veidt in Fear he is an Indian priest. In this he is an Indian prince who keeps tigers. So I watched this and I saw, now this is really interesting. It is not, I have seen American things that are far, far worse in terms of the representation from this period. I hate to say, but Seven Chances, the character in blackface in Seven Chances is like, oh, I don't think I want to watch this again. I watched the chase bit. I sort of skipped those bits because it is not exactly, it is not at all dignified. So it is one of those things that it is like, okay, yeah, I have seen far, far worse. So this one I was interested in, and so I watched it, and it is interesting. The things that I truly noticed was the fact of the focus of the film. Now, whenever I come across these German films and I am thinking, oh, what is this? I go to this book, which is a German book. It is From Caligari to Hitler, a psychological history of German film. It was published in 1947, and it is written by Siegfried Kracau. This book. Now, this book is interesting, because it is talking about the silent era between the German Expressionist film and Hitler's rise to power. And it is talking about what these films tell us of the German psyche and how this led to the rise of fascism and all the things that follow. So this actually is interesting because it has access to films that no longer exist. Either because of the author had seen these films and knew of these films from before the war, or that have disintegrated and disappeared since the publication of this. So I look up the Indian tomb in this book, and Siegfried here is somewhat dismissive of it in terms of he see it as German fantasies of expansion being played out on celluloids that cannot be played out in real life. That the war has curtailed imperialist expansion, colonial expansion, aspirations of the German people. They are now trapped in their country, and they are dreaming of exotic places outside of Germany. And you could read it as that, but I think it is actually, I mean, I think from his perspective, yes, I can see where he is coming from. Mais, I would say, watching it from here, what I see, what made me interested is the focus of the film. One would expect a film that is sating the colonial expansionist aspirations of a nation would be more about, frankly, conquest and colonial expansion. Mais in the Indian tomb, the prince is a Maharaja. It was a prince. The prince is a wealthy man who has commissioned a German architect to come to his palace and build him a tomb. He is planning on entombing his adulterous wife in it. Yes, do not cheat on a man who keeps tigers, all I will say. Certainly don't cheat on him with a drippy Englishman who doesn't give a... Oh, none of them are actually terribly sympathetic. So there is the... He is the villain of the piece, certainly. But it's one of the things that this has is the first film. It's a 2 film because it's like 5 hours long. Is mission of the yogi, parce que the prince he dig up a yogi who has been meditating buried alive, and the yogi has fantastical powers that enable him to help the prince achieve things that he wants. So it definitely is leaning into the realm of the fantastic with this. Mais as much as that, I think what struck me as interesting is I have never seen anything English that actually engage with mystical, esoteric quality of the India that they had colonized and conquered. It is entirely a commercial venture. It is entirely a subjugation measure. And so I thought this is really interesting. Yes, it is still engaging in Orientalizing. It is definitely exotic. It is definitely strange. It is the strangeness is part of it of the spectacle of the film. But it is also a case that the Indian characters, who are not played by Indian actors, 1920s Germany, yeah, oui, are played, however, with dignity. They are not racist caricatures. They are serious characters. The prince is probably the most interesting of the characters. He is certainly the reason that I bought the film. Conrad Veidt plays the prince, and he goes from being he is both incredibly charming and ingratiating and engaging and welcoming to his kingdom, and at the same time incredibly dangerous. But it is not... the performance may not make one think that he is dangerous because he is foreign. He is dangerous because he is a powerful man who has been very badly hurt. And he is uh, he is, what is the word? He is very much lashing out at everybody around him. So everybody is copying the fallout of the fact that the woman he loved has had an affair with, of all things, an Englishman. So this is not just a blackface, brownface, undignified character. So I thought that was interesting, and I start thinking, there is something about this. Because I also, one of the other things that made me think about all of these things is I watched a few videos recently that were about yoga and like the dark side of yoga and the fact that yoga in the West also was it got the Nazis' dirty fingerprints all over it. The Nazis put their dirty fingerprints all over it. And remember what I said, some of these things the Nazi is baked in, some of these things they just got their dirty fingerprints on it. And so these people were talking about this, and I think what they did, they read a book. They read the same book that took it all the way back to just this point. And this point I thought, now why were the Nazis having any, frankly, knowledge of an obscure spiritual practice from India? Not something the English brought out of India. It was something, why are they even there? Why is Hermann Hesse writing a book set around the Buddha? Why are there these Indian films in Germany? What on earth is happening? Why is the poems that make up Gustav Mahler's Das Lied von der Erde Chinese? Admittedly, bad translations of the Chinese poems. They are Chinese poems in German that make up the Das Lied von der Erde. Why is this happening? So I start to look. I start to think, why was the intellectual pygmies that are the Nazis, how did they even find something like a swastika? What were they doing? How did they get their grubby little mitts on these things? Is it so? I sort of thought there's something in this. This is not just random. Why this should keep cropping up in Germany? Why is this keep cropping up in Germany and not anywhere else? So this one is another one that is going to kill my screen because there's a green lady on it. So I had a look at Edward Said's Orientalism, and this talks mainly about the English and the French. It sort of lets the Germans off the hook for major Orientalism, being the main propagators of Orientalism. It is more of part of the colonial project of the English and the French, which is much longer and older. So I thought, okay, so it's not that. Janice will probably have a look at this book properly, in depth. So, but it wasn't this. And then I did a little bit more digging. Because I thought, how do the Germans know about this Eastern philosophy? Why are they interested in the thought and the esoteric practice of a country like India? Why are there Chinese poems in Mahler's Das Lied von der Erde? Where is this coming from? I thought to myself, this is coming from somewhere. This doesn't happen out of the blue. And then I found philosophy. Now, I do not read philosophy terribly much. I do not, it is not something that I am particularly interested. You found out how little I like lawyer language when I talked about Kafka. Philosophy is sort of in the same vein for me. Pour moi, I am not the biggest of philosophy readers. But once I started investigating why there was so much Asian ideas and Asian interest in Germany at the during the 1920s in the Weimar Republic, I found this. And this was a très expensive book. It is a very academic book. It is Chinese and Buddhist Philosophy in Early 20th Century German Thought by Eric S. Nelson. Eric S. Nelson is an associate professor in humanities at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology in Hong Kong. Originally, he is from Chicago. So, I started to have a look into this. And it turns out that German philosophers by the late 19th and early 20th century were starting to look into Buddhism and Confucianism not as intertextual or multicultural or comparative philosophy, but interculturally. What they were starting to do was to challenge the Eurocentricity of Western philosophy. They were discovering themselves coming up against a brick wall, a limit of the Eurocentric, ethnocentric philosophy or that they were working in, and they started to look east. They started to look to Asian philosophy to help break the impasse. Not as something that is happening parallel to Europe, not as inviting in because, we want to invite people in terms of a multicultural manner, but as recognizing Eastern philosophy, Asian philosophy as philosophy, and recognizing that it might just have what they needed to help to break up the impasse that Western thought alone had become enmeshed in. Now there is this. I was reading this and I saw that this quote. Now these philosophers did not manage this seamlessly. They did not integrate this necessarily fully. This book is arguing that what was started by these late 19th century, early 20th century philosophers is the way forward for philosophy. Now, this is the kind of book that is incredibly academic, and I do not have a great deal of familiarity with these writers themselves. I do watch some philosophical talks about various things, and the things that struck me when I watched these and listened to them is especially late philosophies, these big German philosophers like Hegel and whatnot. is you are only minding your own traditions. Surely there is something in the East that might actually help you with this, because you seem to be running up against a brick wall. You are revolving in tinier and tinier circles. And it turns out that is exactly the problems that they had come up against. I find that philosophy is kind of like spirituality for fedora wearing dubros. Bad philosophy seems to attract those people. So some of those videos, weird. So I would like to read you this quote. It is a little bit long, but I think that it helps to explain why this was happening, and why this particular author thinks that this blending of European and Asian philosophy is very important for the philosophical future, or the future of philosophy. The question of what does and does not count as philosophy is itself more than a purely philosophical question. Philosophy has long been identified with the ideas and potentials of humanity itself. In classical Greek, Roman, and Renaissance traditions, and with the conceptual, critical, reflective thinking in Western modernity, there is a close affiliation between Western denial of non-Western thinking and the perception of non-Western people as mere strategic objects of just wars and drone strikes, of pragmatic use, neglect, and termination. The denial of the humanity and destruction of the other are counterintuitively part of the ideological claims that the West is the sole universal, infinite, and cosmopolitan civilization. The denial of the possibility of philosophy to the non-Western others is interconnected with the renunciation of their humanity and rationality, as human beings are reduced to mere objects of technical, strategic manipulation by denying them recognition as independent persons who are capable and worthy of genuine encounter and dialogical interaction. The much-needed emancipation of philosophy from ethnocentrism, often cloaked in the language of a false universality, requires what could be called a critique of European reason, or a deconstruction of the Eurocentric conception of rationality, which is simultaneously an internal, immanent critique of the dialectic of Western philosophy and an exposure of its exteriority of its, in this case, East Asian others. So, in short, the flawed and incomplete experimentation of the German philosophers of the late 19th and early 20th century is an antidote to the Orientalism and colonialism that is expounded in Edward Said. And I just thought this is fascinating. I'm sure I have bored everybody to death with this. This is highly esoteric sort of understanding of things. This is me going down a rabbit hole and justifying reading a book. But it was something that I found très interesting. I will link all the books that I talk about down in the links. I will tell you, this thing is nightmarishly expensive. Right? Whew. It is a very, very expensive book. But it did confirm what I had suspected, so I was quite pleased about that. So there is a little rabbit hole I went down when I sort of thought, why are the Germans interested in this stuff? Now, this is not a universal thing, but it it was something that I had noticed. I had noticed it amongst either the writing or the depiction of educated and sophisticated Germans. This is not a low culture thing. This is quite a marker of status, this interest. The fact that it worked its way into film, the fact that it is there at all. At a time where the English are making a film that is set in India, that has an actual dignified representation of an Indian character, or several Indian characters, even if they are played in brownface, but Lawrence Arabia is still played in brownface, so it's not as if that was something that was going away anytime soon. So I hope you perhaps enjoy this. It might explain, certainly for me, it explained how the Nazis got their grubby fingerprints all over Indian things. It could be because you'll really wonder, why are they interested in this? Why do they even know this? But it is also more than the Orientalism and the purely decorative, just cultural appropriation of the English and the French. So it is slightly different, which is what made me so interested in the first place. It is not a case of pure cultural appropriation, so that exists. It is actually more an attempt at cross-cultural connection. Because in this book it also talks about how German philosophy influenced modern Chinese philosophy. I have not read the entire book. It is a very dense book, and it was more than the entire thing was more than I required to talk about this. I spent a lot of money on it, so I will read it. So it is quite interesting. It's just going to take me a while. I won't be bringing this book as a solo book. If you are interested in this, it is a good place to look. So this was a long video. I will probably bring you something more normal next time. But I hope you enjoyed it, and so I think it is either Her Ladyship or it is Caesar next. I think Caesar would like to do the cabinet of Dr. Galagari. So Caesar might come next, otherwise it will probably be Her Ladyship. So until then, until I am back with something else, probably something a lot easier to read, au revoir. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.